Ninja Gaiden on the Game Gear. Ninja Gaiden, I'm sure you can imagine why I picked that up. It was really cheap. Guy just had it on the table. It was a couple bucks. I was like, yeah, I'll take it because I want to add it to my ever-growing collection of Ninja Gaiden games, which you can, if you're watching this channel, you know exactly why I have a large collection of Ninja Gaiden games. So, Genesis stuff. I got Thunder Fox. This was, if you see any price, I took most of the price tags off. If you see any price tags, I can tell you I didn't pay asking price for almost anything. I don't know what this game is, but it's got a totally 80s looking dude with a bazooka on the cover, and it's from Taito, which basically told me that it was probably worth a couple of bucks. Gauntlet 4, I picked this up. Gauntlet 4 is the first thing that M2 ever worked on. And if you're familiar with M2, they did all the Sega Ages 2600, which is a cumbersome name. Like the Gunster Heroes Treasure Box, the Monster World Collection. They do all the Game Gear emulation stuff for the 3DS Virtual Console. They do, or they have done a lot of Sega emulation stuff, and they just do really, really top-notch work. And this was the first thing they did. They ported Gauntlet to the Genesis. It's called Gauntlet 4, but it's basically, I think it's actually really just Gauntlet 2 on the Genesis with a bunch of extra bells and whistles and stuff like that. So I'm excited to check this out. And I got a card copy of Streets of Rage 2. This I got on the cheap because the label's all kind of screwed up and there's a bit of a rattle there. I haven't tested any of this stuff yet, and you'll see why in a minute. But it was relatively cheap, and I have Streets of Rage 2 on a couple of different compilation discs, Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection. I have the Steam, that huge Genesis collection on Steam that has it, but there's nothing quite like the original cartridge, the soundtrack coming out just perfectly the way it's meant to. And again, it was cheap. It's one of those things you gotta have Streets of Rage 2. You gotta. It's one of the best Genesis games out there. Genesis related. Did some 32X games. These were just they were so cheap I couldn't pass them up. WWF Raw. This is an interesting case. We'll get to this at some point on a regular show. And Virtua Fighter, which I believe Shane Bettenhausen, formerly of EGM, formerly of 1UP, formerly of Retronauts, currently of Sony. He works for PlayStation now, but he calls this the secret best port of Virtua Fighter. It's better than the original Saturn version, which is so weird. So I grabbed those on the cheap. Last Sega thing. That's a big glare. The Adventures of Batman and Robin on the Sega CD. So everybody knows that there are, and I'm sure you can guess that this is something that I'm going to talk about on a show as well at some point. There is a Super Nintendo and a Genesis Adventures of Batman and Robin. They're totally different. And there's a Sega CD Adventures of Batman and Robin. And this is also totally different. This is actually a driving and flying game. This entire game is Batmobile and Batwing sequences, sort of similar to the bits that were added to the Sega CD version of Batman Returns, but that had the Genesis platformer levels in between. But this is just the driving and flying, and it's got I've heard big fans, so I'm a fan of the animated series. I'm not like a huge nut. I have a few of the DVDs. I really like Batman the Animated Series. I watched it when I was a kid, but I'm not like a super hardcore devotee. I haven't watched the whole thing. I love Mask of the Phantasm. It's one of my favorite Batman movies. I saw it in a theater last year on a 35mm print. It looked amazing. But I guess big fans of the animated series sometimes refer to this as the lost episode, because there's a whole bunch of sequences that were done by the production staff with the original voice cast that are only in this game. And when you string them together, the lost episode. So that's cool. So you'll be seeing this in a video again way in the future. You guys know I'm doing the NES stuff for the next several, but we will eventually see that as well. Okay, Nintendo stuff. I got a ton of Nintendo stuff. Let's start with these. So I got two of these. Gyromite. So, excuse me. This one you can see says with adapter. Again, that's not what I paid for it, but these have Famicom adapters in them. This one does not, and you can't, by looking, there's no way to tell. They're both 5-screw copies. I'm going to turn this into a Famicom adapter for my NES. I'm really excited about that. This was just cheap. I bought it first, hoping that I would win the lottery. I didn't. I've already opened this one. There's no adapter in here. So this is just going in the collection, just because. Why not? I like black box games. So, but yeah, we'll be turning this into a Famicom adapter. Tetris, I already mentioned that. I actually got 2 copies of Tetris. Bet you can figure out why. Here you go. Tetris and Tetris. If you're watching this channel, you know exactly what I'm doing with those. Let's see here. What else do we have? We got Rampage, which we just found out is being made into a movie starring The Rock, which is weird. I don't know if he'll be playing George the Ape or Ralph the Wolf, who is actually not in this version of Rampage, or a person fighting I don't know. I picked up Arch Rivals. It's Arch Rivals. You guys know what's up with Arch Rivals. Super fun arcade basketball game. Lots of face punching. This was in a grab bag. If you watched the other video, I don't have the two other games that were in the grab bag that you saw in a previous video. I already traded to other people, so this is the only one I still have. Top Gun. I got Ms. Pac-Man, Tengen version of Ms. Pac-Man. In the Tengen sleeve, which is super cool. And what I didn't even realize, I actually talked this guy down from what he was asking for it, and I might not have tried that if I had known that the manual was in there. But the manual was in there. And I didn't know that when I bought it. I don't know if he even realized that. So I got a Ms. Pac-Man in the original Tengen sleeve. This is what, instead of these, this is what Tengen put their games in. So the Tengen sleeve with the book, had no idea. I'm not a complete collector. I barely even think of myself as a collector. I like to play video games, and I like to play them on original hardware, and so I like to have them around. But I'm not trying to get I don't care if things are in the box. If they happen to be and they're affordable, I get them. But with the book in here, man, that's really cool. Let's see here. Famicom games. Let's talk about what I'm going to use that converter for. I have a ton of Famicom games as it is. Famicom stuff is a really good idea if, like me, you just like to play the game. If it's not about collecting, if it's more about playing. For example, we'll start with this. This is New York Nyankees, which is a really terrible pun in Japan. In Japan, nyan is the sound a cat makes instead of meow. So New York Nyankees is you get it. It's Rockin' Cats. The game was released in the US as Rockin' Cats. And actually, if you take a look here, Atlas. This is an Atlas game. It's one of Atlas's first games. It's a platforming NES thing. It's super fun. The US version has gone way up. It's hovering close to $100 now. I paid $25 for this. Same game. I think maybe there's a little bit of text, but nothing gameplay related. It's not like an RPG. People don't tell you where to go or what to do, anything like that. This Hello Kitty World. This is basically Balloon Kid for the Game Boy, but this is the NES version. And instead of a little girl with balloons that help her float, you play as Hello Kitty. or Kitty-chan, as she is known in Japan. So yeah, Hello Kitty World. There's also a really weird, I don't have it, but there's an offbeat Sanrio Foursquare game with Hello Kitty and Keroppi and all those characters playing like weird Foursquare that I'm told is pretty good, but I've not played it. I don't remember the name of this one. This is an Adventure Island spin-off kind of shootery thing. It never came to the US. It is not Adventure Island 4. It's a different Adventure Island thing. But it was cheap, and it's I'm told it's pretty good. So I'm going to check that out. Pretty excited about that. This I got on the cheap. This is Dragon's Scroll, it's called. It's a Konami sort of Zelda-alike, basically. It's a top-down action RPG. I believe there's a fan translation of it. But this, I got this for $1. So, I mean, can't go wrong, right? Last Famicom, this is the big Famicom thing. This is, I'm sure, again, you all know what I'm going to do with this game. And it's a big reason why I got the Gyromite, because not only does the music not come out right in my clone system, and there's graphical problems with a lot of games, this game will not even work in my clone system or any clone system. This is Akumajo Densetsu, or, as you may know it, Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. This game weighs a ton for a Famicom game because there's a couple extra chips in here. A bunch of differences I'm not going to go into now from the American version because, again, you guys all know what I'm going to do with this. But this is the better version of an already excellent game. So, first and foremost, chief difference is the music. The soundtrack is so good. It's already good. The NES version is good, but this one is even better. Has some extra channels that get used, extra instruments that weren't available on the NES generally, or on NES carts. And this is awesome. Really excited about that. Last Nintendo things are some Super Famicom, Super NES and Super Famicom stuff. We're almost done here. Sunset Riders. Love me some Sunset Riders. I've been looking for this one. I got it at a really good price from someone. Had to scoop that up. Buster Bust Loose. This is my favorite Tiny Toons game. It's a Konami. It looks so good on the Super NES, and it's a ton of fun. And this I got cheap, way cheap. The guy, I mean, he may as well have been giving it away. Not this game is rare or hard to find or bad, but like less than I would have paid for probably for shipping on eBay. You know, this was just a couple of bucks, and it's totally worth it for that. Looks great. It's a pretty easy platformer, but it's a lot of fun. Got a couple Super Famicom things here. This is kind of the big finish because it's going to lead into the next video. This game, I forgot to look up the name of it. This is an All Japan Pro Wrestling like board game. It's super weird. These Super Famicom games, this one and the next two that I'm going to talk about, all came from the Stone Age Gamer booth. Stone Age Gamer, they make EverDrives, they make NES to Famicom converters. Not what's in the Gyromite is a Famicom to NES, right? I put a Famicom game in there and I can plug it into my NES. Stone Age Gamer has or makes, if you have like an AV Famicom and you just want to use that strictly, they make converters that you can put an NES game in there and it'll pin out into the Famicom, and then you don't have to keep an NES around, or even a regular Famicom, not even an AV Famicom, a regular Famicom. They had boxes of Super Famicom games that I sifted through, and they were 2 for $10. And these next two I found, and I was like, hey man, this one I want because it's cheap and it's goofy and like it's probably not that good, but you know how I feel about professional wrestling. But these other two, I'm like, well, like this doesn't have a label on it. I'm like, this one, now people who know what this is probably know what's up, but like this one, like, do you know what's on this? And they're like, we don't know what's on those. And I'm like, well, I'll take those, but you're gonna have to give me a deal. So they gave me a deal, which is great. Stone Age Gamer, they're good people. Also, I didn't buy anything from 8-Bit Evolution, but Adam and I were on a panel together. Adam works at 8-Bit Evolution. You know, and that video is coming as well. So check out 8-Bit Evolution if you need any repros or anything. Some friends of mine bought some repros while we were at the show. Excuse me. And who else did I want to shout out to? Oh, Kurt Collada from Hardcore Gaming 101 sold me that Dracula or Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. So big ups to him. And actually, I didn't bring it in here to show you guys, but I also bought the latest Hardcore Gaming 101 book, which is the Bionic Commando and Strider book. Love both of those games. Super jazzed about that. Kurt is a super nice guy. So if you ever see Kurt at a convention, or like just buy some of his books. Like, he writes such great stuff, and the people who work for him write such great stuff, and they really weren't making money off of it very much for a really long time. And now that they're selling actual hard copies of stuff, the layouts are beautiful, tons of screenshots, artwork, expanded articles. Just buy that stuff. And a lot of these imports came from Carlson at Mad Gear. If you go to a convention and you see Mad Gear, it's a lot of import stuff. That dude has cut me so many deals over the years, and you should give your money to him. He's at MagFest every year. He's the Midwest Gaming Classic every year. TooManyGames. He's around, man. He makes the rounds. So if you see Carlson, check him out. But anyways, so these, I'm going to explain what's up with these. These are Nintendo Power cartridges. And so when we say Nintendo Power, usually we think of the magazine Nintendo Power. These have nothing to do with the magazine Nintendo Power. In Japan, it started, I believe, with the Famicom Disk System, although I don't remember if those were actually called Nintendo Power, but it's the same idea. Famicom Disk System, so game rentals in Japan were illegal for a long time, and I think they finally legalized them within like the last decade or so, but you couldn't rent any media, to the best of my understanding, in Japan for a long time. You couldn't rent video games for sure. And the next episode of Same Name Different Game is going to talk about the rental thing a bit more in detail, but basically you couldn't rent games. So in order to cut sort of costs down for the consumer, Nintendo, that was part of why they released the disk system, which I talked about in the last Same Name Different Game. But with the disk system, you could go to kiosks at software stores and you could put a blank disk into the kiosk, and you'd pick a game and it would write a game to the disk, and you take the game home, and then if you got tired of it, you could go back to the kiosk. And the blank disks were cheap, and you know, the games themselves were cheap to get on the kiosk, and so that way you could sort of like recycle those games. So then they started the Nintendo Power System, which was for definitely the Game Boy and the Super Famicom. I think that's it. I don't think other systems did the Nintendo Power kiosks, but the deal with the Super Famicom and the Game Boy is the same deal. You'd buy a blank cartridge that looked like this. You can tell it's a little white. It's white. That's how I know that this one is the same thing, because it's this off-white color instead of gray. And the back labels are the same. They have that stuff, the same copyright warnings and everything. So you would buy this cartridge. You'd go to the store and you'd slot it into the Nintendo Power kiosk, and you would pick a game. And as you see, there's a 1 through 7 here, that's so you can like label what game is in here. And you would put them in there, and then you would get a game on here. And then when you got tired of that game, you could go back to the store and slot it in and change the game and whatever. This is not the same as a Satellaview cartridge. So I don't know what's on here. I know like it's not Radical Dreamers, okay? Because these are not the same as the cartridges that you would write to for a Satellaview, which if you don't know what that is, just like Google it. It's a really interesting thing that Nintendo did. But this is not the same as a Satellaview cartridge. So I don't know what's on these. And so in the next video, I'm going to re-explain what I just explained. And then I'm going to put these in my Super Nintendo and find out what is on these cartridges. And with my luck, they're both Super Mario World, but we'll find out. So stay tuned for that. Probably that video is going to go up tomorrow. And we'll see what's on these. And those are my pickups. That's everything that I got at TooManyGames. And I'm really happy with what I got. It was a great show. It was a ton of fun. The panel video is going to go up at some point in the near future. So if you weren't there and you missed the panel and you want to watch it, it was Eric from Game vs. Game, myself, and Adam from Gunstar Reviews, as well as, he was also on the Sega Bits panel. He contributes videos to Sega Bits, who are a great bunch of guys as well. So, yeah, look forward to it. Thanks for tuning in. And if you get a chance to go to TooManyGames next year, it is a ton of fun. It was a great time, and I got all these great deals. So, do it. Check it out. Live it up. Talk to you next time.